Hello, and welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ+ daily evening television news, broadcasting live and then available on demand on all smart televisions, including Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, Amazon Fire TV, and the YouTube and the Facebook. It's time to queer up the news. It is Thursday, October 20th, 2022, and we are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we are going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight with Al Ferguson.
Good evening. I'm your anchor at Queer News Tonight, John Hayden, and this evening we bring you the news of and perspective representing the LGBTQ+ community from South Florida, America, and across our planet.
This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ+ evening news show. Whatever happens, unique in the LGBTQ+ news, you will see it and hear it.
Happening Out Television Network is a 501c3 nonprofit media platform in the television and radio model of PBS and NPR, but designed for our LGBTQ+ community.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ+ media companies in America, Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network.
Our magazine is celebrating 37 years of the LGBTQ+ experience, and our television news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ+ and broader community.
Well, let's begin tonight by welcoming anchor AJ Stone. AJ is a foodie, comedy writer, and social media slut, and the co-founder of bearslooking.com, and that's BEARS looking.com. Now, he may be big and burly, but don't be fooled. He's a softie and a goody two-shoes. Find him online at bearwithaj. Good evening, AJ.
Good evening. You know, I might be a micro-influencer, but honey, there ain't nothing micro about me. Let's welcome anchor Gregg Shapiro. An inductee into the Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame, Gregg is the author of 8 books, including his latest, Fear of Muses, an entertainment journalist whose celebrity interviews and music reviews run in a variety of regional LGBTQ+ and mainstream publications and websites. His movie review column, called Screensaver, can be found in South Florida Gay News, San Francisco's Bay Area Reporter, RottenTomatoes.com, and more. Good evening, Gregg.
Good evening, and to all the carnivores at the table and in my life, happy National Chicken and Waffles Day. Let's welcome anchor Tarek Turjman. Tarek is a queer Guatemalan Palestinian comedian living in Miami. He is an instructor, improv actor, and producer at Villain Theater, where he hosts his own late-night show, Tonight with Tarek. He has opened for Ilana Glazer, Carlos Santos, Francisco Ramos, and Brittany Brave. This past year, he produced Gay 8 Festival's first comedy stage and headlined Villain Theater's annual Pride Comedy Festival, No Fear, We're Queer. Good evening, Tarek.
Hello. I'm glad you got through that. I wasn't going to get through it myself. All right. Now let's welcome David Hopkins. David is an officer for the Lambda Men's Brotherhood, a local charity group that raises funds within the leather community. Over the past 16 years, they have raised over $250,000 for harnesses? No, I'm kidding. For the South Florida LGBTQ+ community. Now they're raising funds for the Lambda History Series, a free LGBTQ+ history curriculum for parents, educators, and students. Welcome, David.
Thank you. And if you want to help support and have a good time, November 25th at the Crystal Ballroom at the Manor, we will have our 17th annual Leather Mass Ball. Tickets are going on sale soon. It all goes to charity, so come by. We're going to have some great DJs, a great time. Even if you don't have leather, you're welcome. We are the reporters for Queer News Tonight, and this evening we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ+ community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast, and here are the bullet points of the queer news for today, Thursday, October 20th, 2022.
Well, let's begin by queering up gay culture. GLAAD stands up to political bullying on today's Spirit Day. LGBTQ+ youth are experiencing attacks on their identities in schools, from book bans to sports team bans to bathroom restrictions and teachers barred from using students' pronouns. the means by which a student can express themselves are increasingly challenged. Cyberbullying is at an all-time high as well. As per the survey conducted by GLAAD, 76% of LGBTQ plus students say they were verbally harassed. 72% of LGBTQ plus students say they heard homophobic remarks from teachers and or student staff because of their gender expression. 86% of LGBTQ plus youth said that recent politics have negatively impacted their well-being. GLAAD's 2022 Social Media Safety Index found severe harassment for LGBTQ plus users compared to last year. A 2021 national survey by the Trevor Project shows that the majority of LGBTQ plus youth who were enrolled in middle or high school reported being bullied either in person or electronically in the past year. GLAAD is celebrating Spirit Day today and every year on October 20th to stand up against political bullying and to offer LGBTQ plus youth and their families visibility and support. Not just that, GLAAD is inviting all community members and allies to join the fight against ongoing anti-gay rhetoric by taking the Spirit Day pledge to show LGBTQ plus youth they are not alone. And we are all supporting that today. We're all wearing purple. Some of it comes through in the camera shading a little better than others. I took my assignment most seriously, but this is a really important day. We had National Coming Out Day last week or a week or so ago. We have this. We've got Trans Day of Remembrance, and it's events like this that don't get a lot of publicity, but they're important because they show the marginalized communities within already marginalized communities that we are here for them as their LGBTQ plus brothers and sisters or allies.
And this is all under the umbrella of LGBTQ plus History Month, which is October.
Correct. And yesterday was International Pronouns Day, which goes very well with bullying because so many people argue against pronouns. It's so stupid to me. Like, you know, I love people who are like, oh, well, pronouns aren't in the Bible. Well, the first time you tell them that God is a she, they care about pronouns real quick.
Oh my God, I do a joke all the time. It's like, a straight man won't learn about pronouns until you call him girl by mistake, which I do all the time. I call everyone girl and bitch, you know. Those are non-gender. Bro, girl, and bitch are non-gender, right? I'm sorry, I don't care who you are, you're gonna get it. And I often do it to straight men who often correct me about their pronouns. So bitch, you know about pronouns. You know?
And how important that we can show our support to the youth as well, you know, to let them know that we are on their side in this day and age when some of them are really struggling and in environments that are not as supportive as we think they should be.
Now, of course, all of us here are of a certain age. We didn't have the pressures of social media when we were growing up. You too, maybe. You
threw me off. I was born in the 80s.
Back in the day.
MySpace. Oh, the innocent days of MySpace. But I think kids feel...
There was nothing innocent about MySpace. At least not mine, but yeah.
But I think kids feel the pressure because now it's not just when they're at school or at school activities or at the mall, which is a place people our age used to go. It's in their phones. It's in their hand hours and hours a day. And I think a lot of parents, especially, like I've talked with several gay and lesbian parents that are very frustrated because they don't know how to control it. And I don't think anybody does yet, how to get a firm grasp around it.
I think of, you know, if you want a fun example of bullying, I mentioned before we start filming, go on the Queer News Tonight YouTube channel and check some of the comments in the segments. They're absolutely ridiculous. But it all comes from the fact that, you know, people have always felt comfortable bashing celebrities because you were no one knew who you were. And social media has made everyone a celebrity of some sort.
Yeah.
And that mentality of bashing celebrities because they're in the spotlight has just grown and gotten worse. Yeah. And they go after anyone. Anyone who posts publicly becomes a semi-celebrity. Right. And people feel it's open season to just attack and be vicious, no matter if these are kids or what struggles they may be going through. And you know, Spirit Day is very important to make people aware of those issues. Your words matter, even if they're just typed on a screen and nobody knows who you are. Somebody's going to be hurt by those. Sure. If not the person you're aiming them at, then someone else might see them and take them to heart. So, you know, just be mindful of what you say and write online.
Absolutely. And now we're going to queer up religion. Muslims and Christians join together in the fight against LGBTQ plus books. Conservative Muslims in Dearborn, Michigan have joined forces with right-wing Christians in a bigoted crusade against gay and trans literature in public schools. The American Library Association reports that in 2022, public and school libraries have received record-breaking 1,650 calls for the elimination of books, with over a third of the targets featuring LGBTQ content. What makes the Dearborn story different and especially disturbing is that it foreshadows the formation of a powerful and dangerous new right-wing coalition. The rabble at the most recent Dearborn Public School Board meeting on October 13th was not only the predictable cohort of white Christian evangelicals wearing crosses and red caps, standing at their side, screaming anti-gay remarks and waving their fists in the air, were hundreds of conservative Muslims. Dearborn's population is 47% Arab American, and in the years following the September 11th attacks, the mid-sized city was slandered by right-wing bigots who equated Islam with terrorism. The forces who supported a president who called for a Muslim immigration ban are now, through a shared hostility toward gay and trans people, uniting with local Muslims and even representatives of the Council of American Islamic Relations, or CAIR, to demand the imposition of ignorance by way of book banning in Dearborn's public schools. I think the key words for this story are shared hostility towards gay and trans people, and this is where it all lies. And it's not all that surprising that right-wing Christians were able to find common ground with another conservative religious sect. It's only a matter of time before the Hasidic community jumps on this bandwagon.
Oh, I was about to say, you see a lot of Jewish people side with Trump, for example, when he's been vocally anti-Semitic, right. So it's just because they agree with him on these. Well, the Republicans know that they can get people to agree on nothing that they propose except homosexuality, women's rights, trans rights. They found their gold mine. They're attacking it at every level, the local, state, federal level. That's all they have to offer.
Ignorance breeds hatred. Hatred brings unity. Like it's the mob mentality.
Yeah.
And that's the key of trying to ban these books, is it encourages ignorance while also creating a boogeyman for people to rally against. And it's a very well thought out tactic. It's not on accident. These people are being used as pawns. They are rabble. They're not thinking for themselves. Doesn't matter what religion you are. There's people of all religious sects who fall into that. Education is important. Empathy is important. And these people want neither of those things to exist.
Yeah, go ahead.
Luckily, libraries are usually have a history of being a safe space.
Yeah.
And the American Library Association does a great job of promoting we have Banned Book Week that highlights specific materials that might not be accepted in certain communities. But even with access to the internet, luckily, these individuals, they're gonna find this information somewhere. They'll be able to read these materials, whether it's in a library, whether it's online.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it might have to go underground for a minute, but
they'll find it. They're trying to control something uncontrollable. And they know that ultimately. They're just happy to be united on, they're using this as an Arab American myself. I grew up in a very conservative community, right? I come from a Christian Arab family, but they're just as conservative as the Muslims. I'm a Palestinian, and there's no difference in our conservative culture, almost, right? There's extremes at both ends, but you couldn't tell us apart in customs, right? And often they gang up together to, often homosexuality is used as a way to bring our community together. On something, because it's so divided, but yeah.
You know what really breaks my heart about, there's so many things that break my heart about this story, but I was living and working in Michigan from 1998 to 2005. And I was there obviously during the 9/11 attacks and the backlash, and there was so much hate and hostility directed at the Dearborn community for just absolutely no reason.
Yeah.
Just absolutely none. And these are good people.
I forgot my point, but it adds to yours, which is, that's why they're also united with these white people, because it's some sort of acceptance. There's colorism and white aspirations within my community, So I have an Italian mother, and my dad always told me, lead with that. you know, for example,
Right.
to whitewash me, to help me in life. And when, you know, we often see this in the Lebanese American community, that they're very white passing, so they're able to, you know, have some privileges. So they will unite on America on things that obviously go against Lebanon and the Arab world, but because they're white now, because that's more important. So I think it also has white aspirations tied to it. And sorry for interrupting.
No, that's okay. That's an interesting perspective that I would
You know,
have never
just,
thought
you know,
of.
to
Yeah.
give you some insight coming from that community, I know
Absolutely.
that they're proud to be marching there with people that maybe were big, you know, bigots to them in the future, you know, people with authority, important white people, important white politicians.
And that's disturbing. Aspirational bigotry.
Aspirational.
Aspirational bigotry.
Because
Jesus.
that's power now, apparently.
And the
And
enemy
Dave-
of my enemy is my friend.
Exactly. And David, to get to your point that you brought up, that it is ignorance. All hatred is ignorance, but it's a very educated community, Dearborn, Michigan. I mean, they're, you know, almost equidistant from University of Michigan and Michigan State. There's Central Michigan University, Wayne State University, which is huge in the Detroit area. So it's not that they're uneducated, like many of the Republican leaders. It's not that they're uneducated, but they are finding, like you said, common cause. This either vocalized or subliminal desire to pass the way, like as Al Ferguson would say, I can pass. You know, I can be just the straight male blending in at the Walmart. And my God, if you're at Walmart, you're probably a straight man.
And a key point to what you said about it being an educator, this isn't the majority. And that's the thing. Like, these conservatives think they are the vocal majority. No, you are a very vocal minority. There may have been 300 people at that rally, which is a scary number. But Dearborn has 15, 20,000 residents. Like, it's a very, very loud minority who are causing waves because the educated people don't want to get involved because they don't want to get attacked themselves. And it's mob mentality again. The mob isn't necessarily the majority of people, but it's loud and it's scary.
Well, let's queer up education now. Student drag queens shine at Cal State Fullerton LGBT anniversary party. Celebrating its 10th anniversary, Cal State Fullerton's LGBT Queer Resource Center pulled out all the stops for its annual drag show this past Thursday, with more queens, fun, and a very fitting spooky theme. The LGBT Queer Resource Center partnered with Titan Radio and Housing and Residential Engagements LGBTQ Community Housing, Rainbow House, to bring their drag show to life at the Housing Plaza. This year, the center booked 5 drag queens: Alessandra Devine, Natasha Hundreds, Catalina de Isla, Cassie Love, Vanity Mirose Divine, and 2 student drag queens, Hungover Hannah and Shozy. Student performers Hungover Hannah and Shozy expressed their gratitude towards the center for allowing them the opportunity to perform and kickstart their journey performing drag, with Hungover Hannah celebrating their first year in drag. LGBTQ Resource Center coordinator Nat Betancourt Arellano said the purpose of holding the annual drag show is to welcome students and educate people about the culture and history of drag. Betancourt Arellano said, quote, "Not everybody has access to be able to do many things within the community," end quote. Students Tiffany Sapiens and Carissa Harris found the student performers to be the highlight of this year's show. Sapiens said, quote, "They're really important for representation and just to show the love on campus," end quote. Well, how exciting to have a positive news story.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
But yes, creating that safe space for individuals who might want to try drag, might be questioning or experimenting with their gender identity, to have a platform, to have a stage, to be able to perform and express themselves.
They come up with a fun drag name. Hungover Hannah.
Hungover
Wow.
Hannah, such a good call.
quite a story
Drag name.
behind that.
What really stands out for me is that Cal State Fullerton's located in Republican and conservative Orange County, and that, you know, as of now, there hasn't been any backlash regarding the event. But, you know, it's nice to know that things are happening there too.
Still pretty close to LA though.
Yeah.
But performance art is just important. It's important for expression, whether it's drag, whether it's music, whether it's acting. Like, it's such a fun way to express an aspect of your personality. And, you know, it's fun. It's great that they hired professional drag queens, but also embraced student drag queens for this thing. That's so fun. Like,
yeah. And you're big in improv and putting yourself out there.
I was gonna say we are the only. I'm in Villain Theater. I'm an instructor there. I'm a comedian, but we are the only school that has created a safe space for women, people of color, and queers and gender queers. In South Florida, maybe in Florida, people come from all over the state and like, oh my God, I wish there was a Villain in Tampa. I wish there was because we're just the only place you'll find, security. Also, comedy is very hard. You need a lot of nurturing and you're going to suck a lot. And unfortunately, when you suck in front of our community, they ain't going to buy another ticket. In front of our community before. So we're not nurturing of our community, sometimes of our own artists. I bet your favorite comedian now sucked. The first few years he went on to be a star. Jon Stewart famously was really bad. But this lady kept booking him because she loved him. And he's Jon fucking Stewart now, excuse me. But I'm happy to say that we have always in our classes of 15 people, at least I would say half of them are of color or genderqueer. Yeah. So, and if you're a genderqueer, come to Villain. It's really affordable. We have payment plans. You can do an internship where you pay with shifts, so you don't have to spend no money. Yeah.
Is something affordable if you still have to have insurance payment or installment payments on it? I'll just let you think about that. But this story really it makes me happy, but it also draws a real contrast. A couple weeks ago, we did a story about how there was a drag show around an East Tennessee university campus, and it was a public university. And the president of the university said, "No more drag. This is an abomination," and blah blah blah, which you can't do at a public university. But that's happening in Tennessee. And then you go across the country and you see this. You see Liberty University, this conservative campus in Virginia, and they played at University of Massachusetts, and Massachusetts had Pride Day at the football game where they played. So you just see these dueling philosophies and people just hanging on by their fingernails to keep their irrelevant thought as mainstream as possible, and they're failing. Well, it doesn't feel like it some days at this table, but they're failing.
As long as the voice is there, as long as we're on their tongues, it's in the right direction, I feel.
Absolutely.
All right, now let's queer up business. Stock image company Getty offers grants to increase LGBTQ plus content. Getty Images on Wednesday announced a $25,000 grant program open to photographers and videographers globally to boost the LGBTQ plus community's visibility in media and challenge visual stereotypes. The grants, announced in partnership with GLAAD, a national LGBTQ plus media advocacy organization, are designed to provide financial support for creators telling authentic visual stories about LGBTQ plus people and their, quote, chosen families. According to Dr. Rebecca Swift, Getty Images' global head of creative insights, less than 1% of visuals in media and advertising show members of the LGBTQ plus community. Those that do typically focus on pride celebrations or similar event imagery. Swift said, quote, "This grant aims to portray connections across the LGBTQ plus community, visualizing people coming together to embrace, nurture, love, and support each other, irrespective of traditional family ties," end quote. Grant applications are open until November 18th, and recipients will be announced during the week of December 12th. According to Wednesday's announcement, creators will need to submit an online portfolio of their work, a project proposal, an inspirational mood board, and a short essay for consideration. A one-time grant of $10,000 will be awarded to the contest's first place recipient, and grants totaling $7,000 and $3,000 will go to the second and third place recipients, respectively. A special $5,000 grant will also be awarded by the Getty Images Employee Resource Group LGBTQIA+ Alliance.
As somebody who works in nonprofit, I have to do ads, and also I work for Happening Out Television, so we have to have images front screen. It's so hard to find gay content imagery unless you hire a photographer to specifically do a photo shoot for you. Many of these stock image sites don't have anything except for pride images or exceptionally erotic images.
Yeah.
Right. And just like just to clarify for people at home who might not know, a lot of times you'll be watching a news story and you'll see a little video or a little bug up at the top that says Getty Images or courtesy of Getty Images. That's because Getty sends their own photographers to a lot of events, and so CNN doesn't have to send a camera, and they just buy the photos from Getty. Getty also takes those photos and then puts them in their stock imagery. So like, I need Angelina Jolie. You type in, you buy a subscription to Getty. Those subscriptions are expensive, and like you said, they don't often have what our community needs. So this is very important, just not only to inspire LGBTQ plus photographers, but also just to better represent us in media, because a lot of times, we were seeing our images up here. A lot of times those images are stock images. We don't go out and buy those things. So continue the discussion. I just want people at home to understand what we're talking about exactly.
And this is a good news story, and the size of the grants are very generous. After my husband Rick and I participated in the mass wedding on the Social Security steps during the 1993 March on Washington, our photos appeared in a lot of publications, and then suddenly we started showing up in stock photo books. And people would call us and they would say, did you know that you're in the new issue of Elle magazine? We were in Elle magazine when you were in the U.S. News and World Report, and those are all because they were in stock photo books.
And a lot of people don't understand stock photos and videos. During the pandemic, many conspiracy theorists were pointing out the fact that many different unrelated news companies were showing the same hospital room footage, because during pandemic, they weren't letting camera crews into hospital rooms. So everyone was just using stock footage they found in these resources. It wasn't a live hospital room. And that's frequently what you have to do when we're a small organization here. We can't afford to send people to all these events for photos and videos. There's like 5 people on our team. And we don't have the resources. So stock footage and videos are very important.
You do a lot of work on social media, specifically. How often do you deal with, do you have to resort to stock imagery and things like that?
Every once in a while, luckily in this day and age, everybody's got a camera on them. You can just snap a quick photo and create your own content. But yeah, stock image comes, royalty-free images come in handy if you're looking for something specific, if it's available in those archives or in that library.
But that's the key phrase, though, if it's available.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, often you see in just advertising, really funny images being used to advertise to gay people. I see that because a lot of small businesses are going to use the Getty portfolio or whatever, and you see like the same lesbian couple. They might be sisters though, over and over again. And that's funny because a comedian made a lesbian comedian, I forget who it was, made a joke about that. How she kept seeing the same lesbian couple, and then she realized they're the only lesbian couple in one of these stock portfolios.
They are all the lesbians.
Yeah, they are all the lesbians. So it was, I feel bad for those lesbians. They're going to lose a lot of clout, but we need different lesbians.
We need more lesbians. Faye, find a Getty photographer now.
Well, now let's queer up South Florida and Florida. Wynwood's 3 Points Music Festival showcases queer artists. 3 Points proves to be, yet again, an international destination for some of the most eclectic LGBTQ+ artists. From queer icons Maya Jane Coles in 2016 to Kali Uchis in 2017, the Alternative Music Festival has grown into a booming space for both the veterans and newbies in the scene. 3 Points 2022 will be held this weekend on the 21st and 22nd, and this year's lineup is heavy in genres heard throughout the decades of queer protest and advocacy, such as the pivotal experimental rock and electronic realms. With punk that rose from the Riot Girl movement to vibrant house sounds of the ballroom culture, these queer artists embrace the epitome of freedom by summoning an eclectic space to be. While the list goes on, let's tell you some of our favorite queer artists revolutionizing the sphere of counterculture at 3 Points this year. The music festival will feature the Peruvian artist A.R. Kedabar, Palominos Blondies Carly Acosta and Emma Aravello, Laz Mattis of Frog Show Mercy, Miss Mata, aka Rachel Tumata, the Haitian artist Pressure Point, aka Akia Dorsanville, a transgender artist Ultrantham, aka Gami, and the festival tickets range from $119 to $499 and can be booked via the 3 Points official website. So get your friends together at Mana Wynwood, which is in Miami, to groove to the beats of your favorite LGBTQ artists. I love music festivals,
I'm going.
especially when they're a mix of different types of music.
Yeah.
There's a great one that happens all the time here in Fort Lauderdale called the Black Market. Which is a lot of alternative music, cabaret, burlesque, things like that.
Yes.
I love eclectic music types, especially that scene tends to be the alternative scene, music scene, and the rock scene are so queer embracing.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it.
And 3 Points, I've been going for, I think this is the first one. I love it. It's right in my backyard. And it's pretty crazy because you can see all the techno artists, but also a lot of pop artists. This year, Rosalia is headlining. It's her first Miami show, too, this big, part of the Motomami tour. I know a lot of gays are going to be there. You know, it has some iconic moments. Last year, I saw the Strokes live. It was incredible, and they were incredible. And this year, also, Palestinian DJ is headlining the techno. And she lives in Palestine. She lives in Ramallah. Her name is Sama Abdulhadi. She's unofficially a gay icon, but I think she can't say. So I'm not saying she is. I'm just saying that queers love her, and she has a huge queer following, and she's from Palestine. So I'm going to see Rosalia and Sama the same night. It's a night of queens. But they always have the best lineups because it's so variety. It's super queer friendly. They have great food. It's one of the best festivals. It really is. And it's in the heart of Wynwood, so you're in a really great neighborhood.
One of the few things I thought I was going to miss leaving Chicago was where I would go to Lollapalooza and Pitchfork and North Coast and Riot Fest and Square Roots. The music festivals were amazing, but here, 3 Points, Tortuga, Ultra in South Florida, and Gasparilla in Tampa, they do a pretty good job down here.
Yeah.
What's the other one here on Fort Lauderdale Beach?
There's Okeechobee Fest, too, which I haven't been to, but has a great, a lot of rock and alternative bands that, sometimes don't come.
Riptide. Riptide's the other one down here that does a lot of 90s rock and country.
You have the Loveburn in Virginia Key. I mean, they move it around, but in Miami we have the Loveburn, which is an extension of Burning Man. So, you get a little taste of that in Miami. We have so many things. We really are.
Now, but Gregg, you do a lot of music reviews. So you, like we all hear songs and it's poppy and we can dance to it. But how familiar are you with the queer music scene, and how important is this for Wynwood to have?
He corrected the name of one of the people in the teleprompter today before we all got here. He's like, that is not her name.
Yeah.
I write a lot. I cover a lot of queer music. I just interviewed Amy Ray yesterday, the Indigo Girls. Yeah, it's important that these queer artists are included in these festivals.
Yeah.
That to me, because you see queer people at the festivals.
Right.
So why shouldn't there be queer people on the stage representing as well?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And what I love about this is that, I was talking with you, it's such a wide variety of music and artists. Because when you think of gay music, a lot of times there's two speeds. It's the gay, club thumpa music, and then there's lesbian rock with acoustic guitar. But there's so much
Birkenstocks.
Yeah, but there's so much more than those stereotypes at between either the Manor or a coffee shop in Hollywood. There's just so much more to enjoy. So I hope everybody gets out to this festival.
See you there.
It's gonna rock, and it's gonna rock. We move on and we queer up entertainment. The Secret is out on AHS NYC, as it is about 1981 AIDS virus, queer serial killer, and everything else in gay culture. American Horror Story returns to the 80s with a gay serial killer storyline in the season 11 premiere. At the beginning of the month, it had been leaked that the season would be a modern remake of the 1980 film Cruising, starring Al Pacino. And so far, that appears to be the case. The show starts with an episode called Something's Coming, set in 1981 with the beheading of a down-low leather daddy, the latest in a series of gay murders to hit New York City. It makes for an especially tense dinner conversation between Patrick, a closeted detective assigned to the case, and Gino, a reporter for the gay publication The Native, who resents his boyfriend for withholding details about the investigation. The entire AHS NYC is about 1981 queer culture in Greenwich Village and a monstrous gay serial killer murdering gay men. Season 11 of the show premiered in 2 parts yesterday at 10 p.m. Then, for the first time in show history, part 2 was broadcast at 11. Made for a scary night. Many scenes in these episodes were set in the New York City baths, where the female singer is the Broadway superstar Patti LuPone. AHS is not only the gayest in the franchise's history, but perhaps the gayest television show in history. The show explores hanky color codes, extensive hardcore sex conversations, violence, discrimination, and the gay culture in the village. It has also touched upon the ignorance of the police department towards the crimes against gay and LGBTQ+. If part 1 and 2 are any indication, the show is going to be revolutionary. And I mean, it's a Ryan Murphy production.
Yeah.
So if it's the gayest show ever, I mean, that's a high bar to clear, because he's put out some really gay shows. And I just finished Dahmer. I'm in the middle of The Watcher, and so I haven't started this yet because I can only do one Ryan Murphy at a time.
Yeah.
It's just, otherwise it's just.
I haven't been excited about American Horror Story for a while. I got bored
Since
of
the
it.
Gaga season?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I guess I'm gay, but but this seems very exciting. Also because I think that it's going to show, like he did with the Dahmer series. I think he did a good job of showing why how LGBTQ plus people were specifically discriminated in our history, in a way. The way we're educated, or being educated lately, or a lot of people are on, how black people are discriminated by the police and investigations and the juries. It's very important for people to understand how, being gay is actually life-threatening. And, so because these systems won't work in your favor. So
I'm so happy this is based on cruising, and hopefully it brings attention to cruising. It's older than me, but it really is an iconic piece of film. People went to go see it because it was an Al Pacino film, and it turns out it's about a guy who's a serial killer killing people in leather bars. It was dark, it was gritty, but it didn't portray the gay community well because it was 1980, but it was the first exposure a lot of people had to something like this.
Well, this is a little bit of Murphy has this new obsession, which is William Friedkin, who was the man who directed the original film version of The Boys in the Band. Friedkin, a straight man, also directed Cruising, and Cruising was, at the time, there were protests. I crossed a picket line to go see the movie at the Carnegie Theater in Chicago.
Oh my God.
Just to give you an idea of what was going on at the time.
Wow.
It's an extremely homophobic movie.
Oh yeah.
Very, very homophobic and very controversial. And I just think that that's only, I think, a small part of the show. I mean, one of the things he does really well is he recreates period very well. So there's a great feel of like 1981 New York. There's some Mapplethorpe reference in there, and Sam Wagstaff, his partner, and there's a Klaus Nomi character. But in the midst of all this great detail, he really messes something up, and I need to say this.
Go for it.
So there's a scene where he presents a character with an RC Cola can, and it looks like an RC Cola can from the period. So it's really great. That's another example of the details. And yet, one of the scenes where Patti LuPone is singing in the bathhouse, she is singing the song "Calling You." So this series is set in 1981. "Calling You" is from Baghdad Cafe, which came out in 1987. I'm just saying that's a little sloppy and a little lazy. That's all.
This is our professional film reviewer. By the way.
And those are the types of little things that you and I live for. Like I said, I'll sit at home and I'll be like, wait, did she have a glass of wine in the last shot and not in this shot?
But
But
that's the big one. That's the big one, I think.
Yeah.
Especially because you said how a lot of us watch Ryan Murphy because of the historical recreation. Because sometimes he makes things more dramatic, or makes them work for streaming. But
the thing about this show is going to be, because that's the initial episode 1 is called Something's Coming, and obviously it's following 2 tracks of things that are coming. Obviously the serial killer, but also
there's the
HIV AIDS crisis, none of which anybody knew anything about. So it's 2 things so it's literally some things are coming for this. Yeah.
Well, next, we are proud of our special sponsorship with Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church here in Fort Lauderdale. Supporting that partnership, we are broadcasting from our permanent set here at the Sunshine Cathedral at the Happening Out television studios. We broadcast Sunshine Cathedral's Sunday International Service at 10:30 a.m. with more than 30,000 watching every week.
Hello, my name is Peter Basuito, also known as My Big Funny Peter. I'm an internationally known comedian and entertainer, and the Sunshine Cathedral is definitely my queer church.
You know, you can see him naked crocheting sometimes at Lit Bar. Keep an eye out. Or don't, it'll find you. We finish tonight's queer news headlines with a segment we call LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News.
LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News. Let's queer up entertainment. From LGBTQ plus news partner, Hotspots Magazine, and writer Troy Malice. After Unholy viral success, Sam Smith announces new album. Smith's latest single, Unholy, is a bona fide mega hit. The collaboration with Kim Petras has been #1 in Smith's home country of the UK for the past 3 weeks and lodged at #2 on the Billboard Hot 100 since it entered the US chart. It is also #1 on Spotify's Global Top 50. Following its success, Smith teased fans a couple of days ago, flashing their torso and underwear. Smith said a big announcement was coming. The announcement came with Smith revealing their new album's name and release date. As per the Post, his 4th album is called Gloria, and it will be released on January 27th of 2023. Read more at hotspotsmagazine.com.
LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News, let's queer up Road to Stonewall. From LGBTQ plus news partner Bay Area reporter and writer Matthew S. Bajko. San Francisco approves expanding leather history plaques. The former offices for Drummer Magazine, the LGBTQ plus newspaper The Sentinel at 285 Shipley Street, the Society for Individual Rights, the San Francisco AIDS Foundation, and the adult bookstore Folsom Gulch will receive the Leather History Walk plaques. A few more addressees in San Francisco's South of Market District are also on the list to receive bronze plaques embedded in the sidewalk that honor LGBTQ plus owned businesses and organizations in the area. All of this is done as a part of a project by the Leather History Cruise that is creating a walking tour of the neighborhood's current and former locations that played a role in making the area a world-famous leather and LGBTQ plus destination. Read more at ebar.com.
LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News, let's queer up gay culture. From LGBTQ plus news partner Extra Magazine and writer Paul Gallant. John Irving's new novel makes cishet characters feel like minorities. John Irving's runaway best-selling novel, The World According to Garp, was published in 1978 and made into a movie in 1982, starring Robin Williams, and is famous for many reasons, particularly its ahead-of-its-time ideas about gender and sexuality. In Irving's 15th and latest novel, the whopping 900-some page The Last Chairlift, there is, again, a straight male writer raised by a single mother, violence against a public advocate of minority rights, and a core trans character. The new book is deliberately engaged in how society can run roughshod over queer and trans people, and how shrugging off the labels and barriers placed on us by society can make us more ourselves, and more at home in the world. Read more at extramagazine.com.
LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News. Now let's queer up entertainment. From LGBTQ plus news partner Out and writer May Rude, dressing like Jeffrey Dahmer doesn't taste good for gay Christmas. Every year, millions of Americans put on Halloween costumes based on popular figures from news and pop culture. But not every TV show is or should be fair game. One of this year's most controversial and popular shows was Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story, speaking of Ryan Murphy, on Netflix. But just because Evan Peters is easy to replicate, that doesn't mean dressing as this real-life killer is a good idea. One family member, Shirley Hughes, the mother of Tony Hughes, who is one of Dahmer's victims, has already spoken out about the possibility of Dahmer Halloween costumes. She said, quote, "It's already super triggering to see a hit Netflix series about the serial killer, much less folks dressing like the killer," end quote. Read more at out.com.
LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News, let's queer up gaming. From LGBTQ plus news partner Hotspots Magazine and writer Troy Malice. Hit game League of Legends introduces Black queer champion Cassante.
Another dawn brings a new day. To continue the hunt. My ancestors built Nazuma, away from the Ascended and other would-be rulers. But monsters come in all shapes and sizes. I, Cassante, stand between them and my people. To the end.
Yes, Daddy. League of Legends is set to make gaming history with the new introduction of the character Cassante. While he's not the first queer character to be added to the massively popular online multiplayer game, he's the first ever LGBTQ+ Black champion. This was recently confirmed on Twitter by out actor Deobia Opare, who will be voicing the character. The tweet said, quote, "I'm excited to give life and voice to Cassante and make history portraying the first LGBTQ+ Black champion warrior at League of Legends," end quote. According to One Esports, Cassante is also known as the Pride of Nazuma and is set to join the roster of champions in November during the ongoing 2022 World Championship. Read more at hotspotsmagazine.com.
LGBTQ+ 1 Minute News. Let's queer up entertainment. From LGBTQ+ news partner Daily Wire and writer Amanda Prestigiacomo. Gay journalist Isaac Rastein calls bros a preachy, self-indulgent dumpster fire. An openly gay journalist, Isaac Rastein, is challenging the narrative that LGBT rom-com Bros was a box office flop because of bigotry, describing the film as a, quote, preachy, self-indulgent dumpster fire, end quote, that was viewed by the, quote, exact right number of people, end quote. Citing the film's poor financial performance, the journalist dissed Eichner for blaming the failure on homophobic weirdo audiences in certain parts of the country in a Twitter tirade. He wrote, quote, 2 long hours are replete with partisan finger-wagging, lamentations about erasure, and performative apologies from Bobby for being a cis white guy. Half of this alleged comedy is devoted to Bobby's cranky monologues, end quote. Billy Eichner, who wrote and starred in the movie, has defended the flick, suggesting the dismal box office numbers were fueled by homophobia. Read more at dailywire.com.
LGBTQ+ 1 Minute News, let's queer up the worldview. From LGBTQ+ news partner Pink News and writer Lily Wakefield. Russian member of parliament blames Peppa Pig on kids being gay. Russian MP Alexander Kinstein has insisted, with no hint of irony, that LGBTQ+ media like Peppa Pig are, quote, a tool of war, end quote. BBC Monitoring's Francis Scarr posted a clip of a speech by Kinstein to Twitter in which he appears to be showing a PowerPoint presentation. He said, quote, LGBT is nowadays a tool of hybrid war, and in that hybrid war, we must protect our traditional values, end quote. He showed an image of Peppa Pig saying that in one episode, a polar bear from the show is drawing a portrait where she tells her friends she has 2 mummies. He flicked through screenshots of different shows, including the film Call Me By Your Name and the adult animation South Park. Read more at pinknews.co.uk.
LGBTQ+ 1 Minute News, let's queer up entertainment. From LGBTQ+ news partner Hotspots Magazine and writer Troy Malice. Andy Cohen admits he feels bad about how he asked Oprah about her sexuality. Andy Cohen says he regrets the way he asked Oprah Winfrey about her sexual experiences when she appeared on his show in 2013. She has not returned to Watch What Happens Live since. Cohen made the comments during an Ask Andy panel at BravoCon 2022, which was just last weekend. He said he hadn't really planned to ask Winfrey the question. Cohen went on to say he didn't hear anything afterwards from Winfrey, but her friend, Gayle King, contacted him saying, quote, Oprah didn't know what the lady pond was, end quote. Cohen said he always wants his guests to leave feeling happy, hinting he wasn't sure if that was the case with Winfrey when she finished the show. Read more at hotspotsmagazine.com.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up the USA view. From LGBTQ plus news partner, advocate, and writer Christopher Higgins, House Republican Mike Johnson introduces federal Don't Say Gay bill. Republicans in the House of Representatives introduced legislation based on a right-wing conspiracy theory and proposed what critics are calling a, quote, Don't Say Gay bill. The bill prohibits using federal funds or programs or events that contain sexually oriented material geared toward children under 10, such as drag queen story hours, which have attracted the attention of conservative politicians and right-wing activists. On Tuesday, Louisiana Representative Mike Johnson introduced a bill with more than 30 House Republican co-sponsors. The introduction of this legislation is a reaction to far-right conservative outrage over innocuous drag performances that include children's presence at a family-friendly drag event. Read more at advocate.com.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up education. From LGBTQ plus news partner, LGBTQ Nation, and writer Daniel Villarreal. School to call parents if kids wants to check out graphic novel Genderqueer. If a student in a Western Michigan school district wants to read the graphic novel Genderqueer, a memoir, they'll have to meet with a school counselor who will then call their parents for permission. This is the compromise that the Spring Lake School Board reached in a 4-3 vote after a contentious Monday night meeting. The board met in order to discuss a parent who wanted Genderqueer to be removed from the district library shelves. The memoir, written by Maya Kobabi, covers your experiences discovering and accepting your non-binary and asexual identities. The book doubles as an instructive guide for those exploring their own identities. Read more at lgbtqnation.com. And that is today's news for the LGBTQ plus community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ plus evening news show. Is our community important to you?
Then help us by liking and subscribing. Ring the bell for updates. Share this news with your friends and family.
Post this broadcast in the many groups you are a member of. Tonight's stories about our community deserve the attention of your family and friends.
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ plus digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support.
If our community is to grow, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world. This is the only place in the world that tells these LGBTQ plus stories in motion and sound, and that is the passion of the Happening Out Television Network and Queer News Tonight. I'm John Hayden, and on behalf of these LGBTQ plus reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including AJ Stone, Gregg, don't call me Gregory Shapiro, Tarek Turjman, and David Hopkins.
Come see me on tour.
Go see him on tour. But we will see you nightly at 8 p.m. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ plus community.